Hello and welcome to Strigen Wednesday webinars. If you are joining us for the first time, this is a community initiative by Strigen Technologies where you can tune in to some great sessions on topics ranging from front-end technologies, UI, UX, mobile apps, to media, entrepreneurship, community building, and digital marketing. In today's webinar, we take a look at how Redux helps us manage states and actions for React apps. Our speaker today will take you through a demo of managing and debugging React apps, writing productions applications using Redux, and much more. Our speaker today is Tarun Sharma, Senior App Developer with Strigen Technologies. Besides exploring Redux and all its capabilities, Tarun also has his own YouTube channel where he provides online training sessions for tech enthusiasts. Before we get started with the session, I would request all participants to please type in any questions that you have during the presentation, and we'll take them up in the last 15 minutes of this session. Also, please don't forget to take this conversation live on Twitter using our hashtag StrigenWW. You can share your thoughts by tagging us in your tweets using our handle @Strigen and Tarun's handle, which will be up on your screens shortly. So, without taking up any more of your time, let's get started. Tarun, over to you.
Welcome to this session. So in this session, we are going to talk about React State Management with Redux. So myself, Tarun Sharma, I'm a senior JS developer at Strigen, and today we will be going through what is Redux and how we are managing the state of React application through the Redux. So let's start. I'm assuming that you already know basics of the React, because here we are talking about how we are managing the state of React applications. So I'm expecting that you already know the basics of the React applications, how React application works, how to write the React application component, how the components of the React applications are communicating to each other, and how we are managing the state of a React application without using any kind of architecture like Flex and Redux. So now, in a production applications, when you are writing your React application, in that time, how you can manage the state of your application, which is a global, how you can manage that using Redux. So first of all, we are going to explore the state management of the React app using Redux. And let's start doing a setup. First, we will do a setup of our development environment, like what all different things are required before writing the code. We will do the complete setup with all the different required tools. Then we will start writing our code with the Redux. We will have a code demo, code walkthrough. So let's start with the development setup. So what we are going to do, we are going to use different tools here. So Redux is just a library which we are going to use with React. We are going to write the code in ES6, which is just a coming version of JavaScript, and most of the specifications has already been released, and most of the browsers are started supporting it. We will be using Babel, which is a transpiler, because ES6 code is not supported on the browser. So we are using Babel to transpile the ES6 code back to ES5. We will be using Webpack, which is a popular bundler. So Webpack will be bundling the different artifacts of our web application after when your code has been transpiled. And we will be using the Express server, which using that we will be hosting our applications on localhost. And ESLint we are using for linting our code to write a clean code with common specifications. Then finally, we will be writing some npm scripts inside the package.json, which will be automating all these tasks in a single command. Okay, so the objective of the setting of the development environment is to run everything in a single command. What we will do, we will write our React components, we will set up the linting mechanism using ESLint, then we also do some kind of a minifications of the output files. We will do the bundling stuff because we are writing the code in ES6 and we are using the Babel as a transpiler. And in the production applications, we might have a lot of different files, CSS file, font files, JavaScript files. So here we are using Webpack as a bundler, which provides you the capability to bundle everything inside a single bundle file. So it is actually improving the performance of your applications on the browser. Then React applications are written with the JSX, right? So we need to compile the JSX back to the ES5 code. So here we will be writing the JSX code with the ES6, and Babel is playing the role of transpiling and transforming the code. Finally, we will be doing all these tasks: linting, minifications, building, compilation of the ES6 code in a single command. So we will be writing these NPM scripts. These NPM scripts will enable us to combine all these tasks in a single command. Okay, so first of all, just a quick introduction of all these tools. So Babel is a transpiler and a transformer. It's a universal. So using the Babel, you can transpile your ES6 code back to ES5. Babel is also a transformer for the JSX. In the React component, you are writing a JSX code as a template. So Babel is transforming that JSX back to ES5, and you are able to see the output of your component on the browser. Now, next thing is Webpack. Webpack is a module bundler. So Webpack is actually more popular in the React applications in the production environment. So what Webpack is doing, it is bundling the things in a single bundled output file. So in a production applications, you might have a CSS file, you might be having a different script files. Coffee script, you will be having the HTML code, a JSON code, CSS, font files, a lot of things will be there. When your application is getting rendered on the browser, it will be firing a lot of HTTP calls to render that complete application. So Webpack is providing a mechanism using which you can bundle everything inside a single bundle file. So whenever your application is rendering that single bundle file, it can render the complete stuff in a in a single network HTTP call, and you are able to you will be able to see everything inside a single bundle file. Then we will be also adding some test cases, like every production application need to have some test cases. So how we can execute the test cases using the NPM script. So we will be using the Mocha. Mocha is just a NPM module. It is built on top of the Node.js layer. It is very simple, flexible. You can write your test cases in the Mocha, Jasmine. So there are a lot of frameworks available. Here we will be doing a little bit testing using Mocha. And just a setup. Then we have the ESLint, because if in the production applications you have different developers using the different editors, so you need to provide some common mechanism to write the code. So you will be having some ESLint configuration, which will be applied to all the code which different developers are writing. So you can have one common standards of the code style which is being written by different developers. So we will see how we will be enabling the ESLint in our application. Now, second thing is, these are the different tech tools and NPM modules we are going to talk about. Redux is totally an isolated library. Redux has nothing to do with the React. Redux is isolated library which was invented, or you can say developed by Dan. And now we have a good integration of Redux with the React while managing the state. Redux is an independent library. It can be integrated with any different kind of library, like you can integrate Redux with Angular 2. Any framework can have an integration with Redux. We are using the latest version of React 15.0. Webpack is 1.13, Babel 6.0, the latest one. And we will see if we need a React routing, then we will use it. So these are just different versions of different NPM modules, because everything in the JavaScript is available as an NPM modules. We will be installing Babel as an NPM module, Webpack, React Router, Redux as an NPM module. So you can just clone this repository. It has the basic setup, how you need to have it just have the basic setup. You can just work on that code, like how I'm doing the configuration. So first we will walk through that development setup, then we will start understanding the Webpack, and then we will add more features to this application. So let's do that. So this is my starter application. It just have So now let's take a look at the package.json, what all different modules you need to install before starting your application. Because here we are using Webpack Dev Server, we are using the routing, we are using the Babel, we are using ESLint. So all these different modules need to be specified. You are already writing the React code, so I'm expecting that you already know how to create a package.json, how to define the dependencies and all. So here I'm defining the dependencies of the Babel. Here I'm defining the Webpack hot middleware. So this middleware we will be using with the Express, so that whenever you are writing, whenever you are changing the code, that code can be published on the browser. We are using some ESLint configuration here to provide a linting mechanism. Then these are the dependencies which we need. So we are using React Router, React Redux, React, Bootstrap. So these are actually the main dependencies which you need. Let's now talk about the script tag. So everybody knows about the automation, like in the web development, you can do the automation using either Gulp and Grunt. So there is other alternative which these NPM scripts are providing. So you can also do this kind of automation using just a script tag in the package.json. So whenever you are hitting npm run start, so what it is doing, it is executing this complete set of commands. Okay, so what it is executing actually, it is running npm run all. This is the command which you need to write whenever you want to execute a lot of things in parallel. So you are executing test:watch. This is your command number 1. OpenSRC command number 2 and lint-watch command number 3. If you see this, what these commands are doing, then it further will try to identify what this test:watch. Test:watch is another command which is actually running your test cases, npm run test. And it is also watching the changes happening in your test cases, and apply whenever you are changing the test cases, it again executing those test cases. You see open::src. This is actually running your application. So Babel node we are using to transpile our code. So Babel node, because here we are writing the ES6 code, and you need to, whenever you need to transpile the ES6 code, then you need to use the Babel node. And here we are just specifying this server. So this is just a simple server here, tools server, which is just an Express server. So I'm using Express server with the Webpack to deploy my application on localhost. It is just I'm just registering this Webpack Dev middleware, and I'm just listening on to this particular port which I have defined in the configuration. So in the Express, we got the Express instance, then we are registering the middleware, Webpack hot middleware, and I'm just compiling the complete code. So whenever you are changing some code, then this Webpack hot middleware is reloading your browser, and you will be able to see the output every time. And whenever you are hitting a request onto the local server, I will be serving this index.html file, which is kept inside this folder. Now go back to package.json. So again we have a lint::watch, which is actually running our linter task, which keeps watching whatever the code you are writing. So it is just applying the lint onto that. If there is any error in your code, then it will show the warning. Okay, now let's talk about these other files. Babel.rc file. This file is required by Babel transpiler. So you need to specify either React or ES1015. So what you are specifying to Babel, that I have the code which I'm writing in the React, and I'm also using the ES6. So you need to define, if you are writing the code in ES6, then you need to define both the options, because Babel is a transpiler and transformer. So until unless you are not advising Babel to do this, to both of the things by specifying both of the presets, until Babel will not be able to identify. So if you are defining both the presets, now Babel will understand that I need to transpile the code ES6 to ES5, and I also need to transform the JSX code to ES5. So this is the story about the package.json, and we have this SRC directory where we will be putting our code. Here I just have the simple line of code which I will be executing. This is my Webpack config. So every React application, wherever you are using the Webpack, you will be having the Webpack config.js. So Webpack config, because we are using Webpack loader, which will load my complete application and create the bundle for my application and will send it to me in the bundle.js. So I will not take much time in the Webpack. So what all different configurations I have in the Webpack? I have this entry point. I'm also registering these Webpack hot middleware, which I'm providing in the entry point. This entry point shows where Webpack need to look initially. So Webpack need to look into src index.js. So Webpack need to compile this index.js file first, which is having single line of code right now. Okay, then after when it is compiling that code, it need to create a bundled output file and need to place the code inside the bundle.js. Here we are specifying that dev server will look into the by default .src folder whenever it is publishing the code, and here I'm using the module loaders. So as I said that Webpack is actually a bundler of different things. It can bundle the CSS, it can bundle the JS, it can bundle the font files. So for every different kind of syntax of the file, you also need to specify the loaders for it. So like if I want to bundle the JavaScript file, I'm using the Babel as a loader. So what Babel is doing? Babel is actually transpiling your React code to the ES5 and then giving the output to the Webpack that I have given you the output for the JavaScript file. Now let's bundle it. Similarly, if you are using the .css file, importing the .css file, then this CSS loader will bundle those things with the bundle.js. So for all different kind of extensions, we are using these different loaders. So this is the file loader, style loader, CSS loader, and here we are using Babel loader. So this is all about the core structure of our application. Now we can also take a look at the ESLint configuration. So if you are applying the ESLinter, then you need to have this ESLint configuration. I will first go to these rules. These rules are just if you need to go into the documentation that what these particular rules is saying. So like if take a look at this example, JSX indent props. So if you are not indenting while writing the props in your React component, then it will not do anything because you have given a weight of 0. 0 means if the developer is not writing the appropriate syntax, I mean appropriate indentation for that, then it will not give a warning. So 0 means do nothing. 1 means give a warning and 2 means give an error. So if anything is happening wrong and you have given a weight of 2, in that case it will fail your build and you will be able to see the error. So like if you are putting some spaces while defining the curly braces in your React component, then you will get an error while building this component. So JSIn, JSLint, these are different NPM modules which are actually providing you the common syntax of writing the code. Your developers might be using different editors, but just give them these ESLint configurations so they will get the warning if they are doing something else while writing the code. So this is just a basic setup. Now let's talk about the Redux. That is the prime point of this talk. So get back to our slides. So what these NPM scripts are doing? So we are specifying a lot of NPM script in the package.json. These are actually removing our dependency on this gulp and grunt. These are also task runner tools. So if you are defining everything inside this script and you are actually automating these different tasks of running the test cases, watching the test cases, then there is no need of using gulp and grunt. Everything is specified inside the package.json script tag. Okay, and it's easy to run and it is simple to debug. You just need to execute the same command which you have written in your package.json. Okay, so this is all about the basic setup of your React application. Now what we will be doing? We will be writing our React component. Just assuming that you already know, but I will be just covering some basics. So what are the different ways of creating the React component? You can create it in the different way. Either you will be writing the code of the ES5 or ES6. In the ES5, we are using the syntax of react.createClass. In the ES6, you will be writing the ES6 class syntax to write your React component. Otherwise, you have also other two options: ES5 stateless function component and ES6 stateless function component. If you are writing a React component which doesn't need a state, which doesn't need to access the references, then you can just directly create a stateless component, which somewhat look like this. So in the ES5, what we were doing to create a component, react.createClass. Second way of doing it, if your application is, if that component is not having any state object, in that case, you can write a stateless component like this. So what this component, what this example is doing, it is creating the hello world component by just passing the props, because these are actually a dump component, you can say, which do not have a state. The target of this component is only to show the output whatever we are passing. So we will be having one parent component, one child component. The objective of the child component is to render something which is being passed from the parent component. So we might be passing the props from the parent component, and the objective of the child component is to render, is to iterate on that props array and show that content on the UI. Similarly, the stateless component can be written in the ES6 in a little bit different way, because in the ES6 we will be replacing var with a const, and we can use the arrow function like this. So this is the both syntax are similar. We just apply some ES6 syntax here. So this is also the stateless component, which is not going to have a state. The objective is to render the content being passed from the dependent component. Okay, so how the ES6 component look like? You will be having a class component name, which will be extending the react.component, and you will be writing a lot of code inside it, like whatever methods you have. You will be writing constructor, which to initialize the state of your component. You will be writing some events to manage the actions being triggered from the UI, and then prop types for the validation of the props object being passed in your React component. So this is the kind of syntax you will be writing for ES6 component. Now let's try to see that how we can reduce the number of lines of the code if we write the same lines of code using stateless component, and what are the advantages. So in some cases you always have a choice that do I need to write a class for this component, or is it okay if I use the stateless component for it. So if a component is not accessing the state and not accessing any reference object, then there is no need of creating an ES6 class. You can write the same lines of code in these, the half number of lines. So what we are doing, we are writing the stateless component, and everything is same. Here we don't have any issues of accessing this object inside the methods. Otherwise, whenever you are firing some method, you are firing some DOM event in the ES6 class, you are not able to access this object. Then here in the ES6 class, you always need to bind that DOM event with this object. So we don't have that any kind of issues here. Like here, I'm firing the on-click event by just specifying say name, and say name is nothing but it is just capturing some event and giving with the name value. Okay, the rest of the things are same. So what is the advantage of specifying the stateless function component? No class is needed, no issues with this keyword. Otherwise, in the ES6 component, we need to bind every DOM event with this object. It enforces the best practices. Number of lines of code is reduced. Code completion is obviously will be better, and it is easy to understand and easy to test. You can understand it easily that this is some kind of hello world component which is taking name as a props object, and we are printing that name directly without doing this dot props dot name. We are writing the on-click DOM event without binding this DOM event with this dot on-click equal to this dot on-click dot bind dot this. I will show that in the demo. Okay, so now let's move further. So let's write our start writing our component. We will create a basic React component, and then we will see that how we are managing the state of those React component with the Redux. This is very basic application which everybody can understand in minimum number of time. So first of all, we will talk about the Redux, how Redux library is working isolatedly. Then we will see how Redux can work with the React, and what are the different things which we need to have to provide a communication between React and Redux. Because Redux is a separate library, it has its own independent existence. Okay, so you already know the React principles. It just talk about the UI layer. it is providing the virtual DOM. So whenever you are updating the state of your React component, you always this React is always maintaining this virtual DOM that is an in-memory DOM, and whenever you are updating the state object, it will re-render the component, but whatever the change you have applied in the DOM, that will get reflected in minimum number of steps. Okay, because it has its internal algorithm to apply the DOM manipulation. It will just compare the virtual DOM with the actual DOM, identify what is the difference, and will apply in minimum number of steps. React is only providing the one-way data flow, so we will virtualize this one-way data flow with the Redux, that how Redux is helping React to manage the state in the same one-way data flow manner. Okay. So what are the principles of the Redux? Initially, you will not be able to understand this, what I'm talking about, what is the single source of truth. So we have this React application at the location A, we have the Redux application at location B. React application will be talking to the Redux application, and in the Redux application we will be managing the state. So every Redux application will have a single source of truth where from to that particular point our React application will be talking. State of the app is read-only. Redux is providing the immutability. So whenever you are updating the state object by firing some DOM event, then it's always going to return a new state object for your React component. And then finally, change with the pure functions, one of the important term of the JS. What are the pure functions? We will talk about that. So we are going to hear the new term reducers. Reducers are actually the pure functions which are providing the mechanism of pure functions. Okay, so now, so first of all, just a basic introduction. It was written by Dan, and it is now one of the most popular library for writing production application with the React, because for the production application we will have a complex way of communication between the components. So we need to have some container which can manage the state of the complete application. So Redux is a separate library which is going to have these three components. One is store, another is reducers, third one is action. So first we will talk about the Redux isolately, then we will see how Redux can fit with our React components. So Redux, the Redux has these reducers, and what these reducers are? Reducers are the pure functions. And what is a pure function? Who always gives the same output whenever you are providing the same input. Pure functions are those functions which are not talking to the database, which are not reading to the file, and we can predict the output, same output every time by providing the same input, like simple addition operation. It is never going to fail, because if we are providing the A equal to 1, B equal to 1, we are always going to get the output 2. So we will be managing our, we will be updating, we will be returning the new state object for our React component using these reducers. So you can compare it with the reduce function of the array. So what we do with the reduce functions in the array, this is a simple example where we are providing, we are just iterating onto this array, and every time the return of the first iteration we are sending into the next iteration of this addition. Like we have initialized it with the 0, now we are adding the 0 and 1, then the addition of 0 and 1 we are sending that to the next iteration. So the state of the Redux also behaves something like this. We will be firing some action. It will update it will return you the new state object. Now you again fire the new action. It will do some action on the current state, and it will return the new state to you. So there are three components: store, actions, and reducers. So let's talk about the reducers. So this is a simple example. You can call it as a reducer. So this is a counter function. What counter function is doing? It is just checking what action I am getting from what action I am getting. So if action is increment, then it is returning state +1. If action is decrement, it is returning state -1. So this is the pure JavaScript function from which you can predict the output by specifying the action. If you are specifying the action equal to increment, then it is obviously will always increment your state by 1. If you provide the action equal to decrement, then it will give the state of your state equal to state -1. So one of the important term about the Redux that it is a predictable state container of a JavaScript application. So whenever in any scenario, whenever you need this kind of mechanism, you will always going to use the Redux in that scenario. So these are reducers, and the reducers will always going to return the new state. So this is why we call it as a immutable. Now let's create a store. So in the first snippet, we have created as a reducer function, which is a counter, and we will create a store object. So we have three things: reducers, actions, and store. So store is just a physical object which you will create by calling the store redux.createStore. You will be just passing the counter. Now you got the store object. Now store is just a big fat object which is going to have all these reducer functions inside it. So whenever you are dispatching some actions, like from the store itself, you can dispatch this action type equal to increment. So what it will do, it will fire this action to this your reducer. Increment will go there, this is the action. Now it will return the new state object, state +1. So complete Redux can be written in 3 lines of code. First you create a reducer function which is always going to return a new state object. Second step, create a store object, redux.createStore, pass the reducer function. Third step is dispatch the action onto the reducer store object. So it will, what it will do, it will dispatch this increment operation, increment action on the store object, and you will fire this increment operations and you will get the new state object. Okay, so next step is how we are consuming, how we are going to get that state of your Redux has been updated. So we also have these methods. You can fire this method get state on the store object now to just capture what is your current state now. So 3 things: you will create a reducer function, you will create a store by calling the create store. Now you got the store object. On the store object you are going to fire get state method, you are going to fire a subscribe method, and you are going to fire a dispatch method. So there are 3 methods: get state method, which will always return you the new state object, which is being returned after when you have dispatched some action. Another thing is subscribe. You are subscribing this method, so you just return this method so that whenever a state change is happening, then this callback will always going to get executed and you will always get the updated state. So these 3 methods you can apply onto the store, and you just dispatch some action onto the store object. It will go to the reducer, will update the state, and you are already subscribing this, so you will be able to get the output. What is the current state of your Redux? So this is, I have talked about only about the Redux. So this is the complete set of lines of code which I have written. One is a reducer, then store, then I have dispatched some action, then here I'm subscribing it. So whatever the changes are happening in the state object which is being returned from this reducer will get printed here because I'm subscribing this store. So whatever you are going to change in the state, every time I will execute this handler code because it is, I have already subscribed it. So whatever change you are making, I will be able to get this printed using this callback handler. Okay. So this is all about Redux only. Now we are going to talk about how this structure is fitting with our React component. Our challenge is to how we can manage the state of React component through the Redux. So first we will talk about like what is Flux. So just an initial introduction. So Flux is also another you can say architecture. Flux and Redux both are the architecture which you can apply on your React application to manage the state. So Flux has its own drawback and complexity which Redux is helping us to resolve. So the Flux developers has also said that Redux is doing something great. That's why production applications are being written using Redux. Now we will see this basic example to understand what Redux actually is. Okay, so this is just a funny example. What do we have? We have a train. So we can say that train is a store. Okay, now we can say that these are the actions, like you are doing a boarding and deboarding. So these are the actions which we are doing on the store. Train is a store object and you are boarding and deboarding. These are the actions on that store object. Third thing is these are the reducers. Transtile. So what it is happening, you got your station, you reach to your station, you are just deboarding. Now new passengers will onboard. So what is happening at this point of time? the total number of passengers are getting updated in the store object. So this is actually your reducer function of your Redux. That number of passengers are getting updated. Every time whenever the reducer is getting called, you always going to get a new state object. It means new number of passengers are going to be there in the store, in your subway train. And finally, your station. These are your React component where you will be able to see the updated number of passengers which are boarding and deboarding. Okay. So finally, this is our store, which is going to maintain our state of the application. You will be firing some actions onto the store, and due to that actions, you will fire reducers. Reducers will give you the new state object, and your store will get the new state object, and you will be able to see some changes happening on your React component, like you are able to see the different number of passengers on your station. I hope you got some basic understanding with that. Now we will what we are going to talk about is, we have a React application which has a state. Now we are going to manage this state in the same way which is being managed inside the train. So what Redux is doing, so let's just go through it. So Redux is actually maintaining our state object in a JSON object, and whenever from the React, whenever we are firing some actions onto the Redux, then it is going to update the state of your application. So let me first quickly go through the architecture, then we can also check out the code, like what is happening. So I can summarize the complete Redux using this. There is a big store view object. I will be firing some action. I will be giving, there is some initial state. Okay, I will be firing some action. So let me compare it with the to-do. In the store, I have the empty to-do array. I will be firing one action equal to add to-do. So I have the initial state, which is empty array. Now I will be firing this is the reducer function in the green. So it will check what is your initial state and what is your action, and based on that, it will give you the new state object. So after each and every action in your Redux, you are going to get the new state object, and that state object you are going to provide to your React component. Okay, let's try to understand it, how React and Redux are talking to each other. So we already know that Redux has the actions, then reducers, then store. Let's add one more thing, which is a component, which is a React component, which will be talking to the Redux. So we already know that you can also fire the actions to the Redux layer using store.dispatch. But when we talk about the Redux with the React, then action will be fired only from the UI layer. We will not be writing store.dispatch to fire action to the reducers. So we have the UI layer and we have the Redux layer. So from the components only, we will be firing some actions and we will be updating the state. So let's initial introduction of what these components are. So action is just a JSON object which always going to have this type, and you can add any other information like this, message, user ID, whatever you wanted to pass to the Redux layer. But type need to be there. So this is your action type, which you will be sending to the reducer that I wanted to execute add comment. Now you are going to have the reducer some kind of like this. So what it will take your initial state and your action which you are firing. So based on that action, it is going to return you the new state object. Reducers take two input. One is initial state, one is action, and then it will give you the new state object. Then again you fire another action. Then it will take the previous state and then your action, and it will give you the new state object. This is an immutable. Then this is a store object. We are creating that with a single line of a code, and store it's just a physical object. Everything is maintained inside the store only. Okay, so you will be just passing the reducer and you will be creating the store. In your application, you can have a multiple reducers. Reducers are nothing but these kind of functions. Some reducers will be updating the to-do array object. Some will be updating sticky notes item array object. So you can have multiple reducers, but finally you need to combine those reducers and you need to pass the root reducer, a combined output of that reducer in the create store method. So this is the store object, big fat store object, which has all your reducers inside it. You will be able to understand it by this structure. So what do I have? Let's see this. Let's remove this view layer for now. View is representing the React component. I have these actions which I will be firing from the UI layer, from the React component, and we don't have a dispatcher, so you can forget about this dispatcher component. I have this big yellow fat object where I have these reducers, reducer 1, reducer 2, reducer 3, which are actually updating the different state object. Then I need to combine all the reducers and I need to create a one common state tree. So principle number 1, Redux application has a one single state object. So here we have multiple reducers, we need to combine all those reducers and we need to give that to the state. So now we have the final state of our Redux application. Now we just need to give that back to the React component. Okay, so how React will talking to the Redux, that is also the challenge. We need to have some kind of a library which can help us to talk to the Redux layer. So we have this React Redux library which we will talk about. This is the React Redux library which will bridge the gap between our React component and Redux component. From the Redux we are going to get the state, and from the React component we are going to fire an action, and based on that action Redux will give us the new state object, and new state object we will render that on the React component UI. Okay, so this diagram is saying the same thing. This view is your React component. It need to talk to your action to fire the action, and it need to get the state object whatever is being returned from the Redux. So in the React application we are not going to maintain the state, everything will be there in the Redux layer. You just need to talk to the Redux layer and you just need to fire some actions and you just need to get the state object back from there. So this is your React component will talk to the Redux layer only to fire an action and only to get the state object back to the React layer. So you can see here this diagram, this is the React component. From this we will be dispatching some actions. Okay, it will go to the reducers. Reducer are the pure functions which will update, which will return the new state object, because here we are not doing the mutations. Here we are just returning the new state object every time. You will get that in the store object, and we already talking to the store, and store will give the new state object to the React layer. Now quickly let's go to the code and we will try to see how this React Redux library is actually helping us to get the state object from the Redux layer and fire an action to the Redux layer. So let's just have a quick demo to our let me just quickly reload the slides. I think it's still loading it. Okay, so we will try to have a demo. So this is the Redux application we are going to talk about. So what we will be doing here, we are going to have the same kind of structure where we have the React component layer, and React component will be talking to the Redux layer and getting the state object back to our React component so that we can show the output on our UI layer. So this is the application which we are going to create. Here I have the list of the books. When you click onto that book, I'm just going to show the book author and number of pages in the book. So this is a simple layout. I don't have anything. List of the books. When you click onto that particular book, I'm just going to show the information of that book on this particular page, on the body of the page. So what all different things I have here? So this is the important diagram which explains everything what is happening in our React with the Redux. So we are going to use React Redux library to talk to the Redux layer which have the state of our application, and reducers are just updating that state, always returning a new state object whenever we are firing some action. So when you click on book 1, what is happening? We are actually creating some action object. Action object is nothing but a JSON object which always going to have a type. What is the type? Book selected. And you are also sending some data, book name equal to book 2, like book 2 you have clicked on it. So I'm just sending this action object. I created this action object by calling some function, and now this action object I will be sending to my reducer. Okay, so what that reducer will do, it will check what is the action which you just fired. So I am firing this here book selected action. So this book selected action you have fired. So what I need to do, I need to return you some state object. So it will return some state object. Now we have the state object from this reducer. So here we have only two reducers. So whatever the state object is there in both the reducers, one is active book reducer and one is a book list reducer. Because I am showing these list of the books using book list reducer, and I'm showing this active book using active book reducer. So I'm just combining both the reducers, combining the output of both the reducers here. I got the final output at the Redux layer. Now I just need to talk to this Redux layer that give me that state object which I have updated. I clicked on book number 2. So in the state that this book object has been updated with the details of the book number 2. So I fired this action object, I updated the state object. The final state object something look like this. You have the list of the books, you have a Harry Potter, some books on the JavaScript, some books on the Java. This is just a list of books. And in the active book, you have the active book which you just clicked. So we will try to understand that with the code. So these are the two reducers. So first let's talk about your action. So you will be firing this action from your action creator. So this action will be sent, this is the action creator. So this is just a select book function. You will be just calling it. What this function is returning? This function is returning this JSON object. Now what you will do with this JSON object, you will talk to your reducer that what you wanted to do with this book selector method. So here we have this reducer. Now call sequence will go to this reducer. Like case, what is the action name? Action name is book selected, and what I need to return? I need to return whatever you are sending me, action.payload. So now this book reducer is returning this state object, new state object, which is having the book information. Now I have these two reducers. One reducer is just returning the list of books. It is not a reducer. It is just a static information. So I need to combine these both the reducer so that here I'm combining both the reducer. So I need to fire this combine reducer method, which will be combining both the data, book reducer and active book. Here active book is representing whatever you have clicked on, and books is representing the list of books. So now your Redux layer is having these two objects there, books and active books. Okay, I just created, fired some action, returned some new state object. I just combined both the reducers. Now this your Redux layer is representing this object. Now what I need to do, I need to talk to this Redux layer that give me the books and give me the active books. So how we will do that? This will be done by React Redux. Let me show this in the code only, so you will get more clarity quickly. So I don't have much code here. This is just an action object where I'm just firing the book selected method. Okay, I have these two reducers. So in the reducers, we have the reducers, actions and store. So these are the two reducers I have. Book reducer, list of the books, active book, whatever you have clicked on it, so it will capture that information. Here in the index, I'm just combining both the reducers. Now, this is the object which is there on the Redux layer. You just need to capture it in your React component. So let's try to talk about the container component. So in React application, at the React layer, you are going to have two type of components. One is a container component and one are dump components. It means that every component will not be talking to the Redux layer that give me the state object. You will just capture the state object on your container component, and you will just send that state object down to your child component as a props object. Okay, so this is actually a container component, and here we are using React Redux Connect library to talk to the Redux layer that give me the state object from there. Okay, so this is actually a React Redux library which is available with the Angular, with the React also, and React Redux is actually a bridge between your React layer and Redux layer. And you are going to use the connect module of React Redux to fire an action to the Redux layer and get the state object from there. So the only challenge is fire the action to the Redux layer and get the state from the Redux layer. Your task is done. So you are going to use this connect module. It has two things: map state to the props and map dispatch to the props. Using map dispatch to the props, you are going to fire an action to the Redux layer that I have clicked on the book 1. So I will be firing some action to the Redux layer. Now map state to the props. Using this method, you are going to capture the state object from your Redux layer. And you only need this, right? You just wanted to fire some actions. You wanted to get the state object which your Redux layer is having. So from this diagram, because this is an important layout, how React Redux is helping your React component to talk to the Redux layer to fire an action and get the state object. Same thing you can see in the code. So here this is the book detail. It is actually a container component. Container component is a component which is actually talking to your Redux layer to fire an action and get the state object. So book detail component is just showing you the active book. So before that we can have this book list component. So in this book list component you can see, let me just change the syntax. Okay. So you will be, I hope you are able to see the code. Here I am using this connect module, which is having map state to the props and map dispatch to the props. So you need to define both these methods. Map state to the props will help you to get the state object from the Redux layer. Map dispatch to the props will help you to dispatch some action from your React layer. And what this component look like, you will have the list of the books. When you click on individual book, you are going to fire some action. So I have this one-click method. I'm firing the select book method and passing some data. So what I'm doing here, using this map dispatch to the props, I am firing action to the Redux layer. Okay, I'm dispatching it. So it will go to this action. It will create this JSON object. It will go to the reducer. It will see this book selected and it will return this payload as a state object. Now the next thing is just get the information of the active book. Okay, here you are just getting this book list information also, whatever you are showing inside a list from this books object, state.books. So let me just try to show you a little bit on the browser that how this application is working. So what it will do with the npm start, it will go to the package.json. I have these lot of script tags, so npm start will execute this. npm start will execute this OpenSRC. So OpenSRC is nothing but it is compiling our code and running the dev server. So it will take a little bit of time in compiling the complete code. Meanwhile, we can check our code. So we have these two container components. These two container components, book detail and book list. So book list component is showing the list of books and providing you the way to click on a particular book. And book detail component is just showing the active book information which you have received after when you click on the book. So what here you will be just writing the map state to the props, because from this component you are just going to get the information. Here from this component you are not going to fire any call to the Redux layer. So map state to the props, from this you are going to get the active book information from the Redux layer using stat.activeBook. You got the book data, now you are just showing it. Similarly, the book list, which is showing the list of books, you are firing the on click, you are firing the select book, and then you are getting the, so here you are doing both the things, getting the list of the books and firing the on click method. So here you are writing both the methods, map dispatch to the props to fire an action, map state to the props to get a state object from the Redux layer. Okay, so this is the complete summary of the code whatever we have written. So whenever you click on the active book, it will just update the state object, and using this React Redux library, which provide you this connect functionality, you will be able to capture the state from the Redux layer and you will be able to fire a call to the Redux layer. And book list and book details both are container component, and we are rendering both of them in the app component. Here we don't have any dump component because both are parent component, which are both are talking to the Redux layer. So this is all about the demo. I have some problem with my, let me just try to fix it. I think there is a node version issue. So let's skip that, and I hope you are able to understand the code. So this is all about the complete application demo and how we are talking to the Redux from the React application. If you guys have any questions, you can feel free and ask your questions. I will be happy to answer them.
Wow, Tarun, that was a great session. Thanks for the very interesting session. So moving on, there are a few questions for you. So the first question that Praveen has asked is, he wants to know the main difference between flux and redux.
Yeah, that is actually a good question. So Flux and Redux both are doing the same thing. Okay. So Flux is also managing the state of your application. Redux is also managing the state of your application. But the only difference is Flux is doing it in the different way. Flux is having this isolated layer. Dispatcher is also there. So in the Flux you have the action, then you have the dispatcher. So first of all, that there is a difference at the architecture level. You have the dispatcher. From the dispatcher you are dispatching all the actions, you are broadcasting all the events, and then you have multiple store objects. So first difference is totally the architecture is a bit different there. You have the extra component dispatcher and you have the multiple store objects. And whenever you are dispatching some actions from the dispatcher, those stores are listening those events. And you also, another difference is whenever the state is getting updated at the Flux layer, then you need to wire up some event listeners so that whenever the state is getting updated at the Flux layer, you need to fire a call to get the newly created state object. So those kind of complex mechanism is not there. I mean, it is a more simplified way of writing the code. So two things is, in the Flux, you are broadcasting the message from the dispatcher and registering the callbacks with your store. That is somewhat complex. Initially, developers is not able to understand what is happening. Second complex thing is, while you are talking to your store from your React component. So what is happening? You fired some action, add to do. From the dispatcher, you will be dispatching that action. Your final store object will get updated in the store. Okay. Now, from your React component, you need to bind some event listeners so that whenever the state is getting updated at the store layer, you need to capture the new state object. So these complexity are not there in the Redux. I hope you got the answer.
So Tarun, there's another question from Atish, and he's asking, how is this single way data flow better than the traditional MVC pattern?
So that is a good question. So what you do, like you can compare this approach with the Angular 1.x and simply a React component. React is providing the one-way data flow and Angular is providing the two-way data flow. You have a two-way data binding, so what is happening? Whenever you are updating some data from model, that is getting reflected on the UI, and whenever you are updating something from the UI, that is getting reflected on your controller or your code level, right? So what is happening? Because there are a lot of complexity here. Whenever you are updating something that need to be reflected on the UI layer, whenever you are changing from here, that need to be reflected at the controller layer. So while doing this, sometimes there is a cascading of the objects, and while updating a single object, you, due to the cascade and dirty checking in Angular, you start updating the nested or child objects also. So while updating a single object, using this dirty checking in the Angular, you start updating or keep checking the other objects also. I mean, after just updating a single object, other objects are also getting updated. But in the React, it is just a clean way. I will be getting the data from the parent to the child. That's all. I will not be sending anything from the child to parent. So it is a more simplified way of communication. Only the thing is, in Angular 1.x, due to the two-way data binding, a lot of dirty checking is happening. Whenever the scope is getting updated, a lot of checks are happening in the background, because whenever the scope is getting updated, you need to reflect those changes on the UI everywhere. So you need to monitor all the changes. Is that change happening from the controller side or from the UI side?
So Tarun, there's another question from Vijay. He's asking, what's the GitHub repo of the React Redux starter repo?
Yeah, I can provide that. That is actually mentioned in the slides. I need to go back. Yeah, I will share it. If you can see, you can just directly look into it.
Okay, so I think that's all the time we have for the questions right now. Now that we're running towards the end of the webinar, I would request those who still have questions to please mail them to webinars@srijan.net. Thank you once again, Tarun, for leading such a delightful session. We're sure our attendees will find new uses of Redux for their React apps. A big thank you to all the attendees for joining us today. You all have been a great audience. You will soon receive today's presentation and session recordings in your mailbox soon. As for our next webinar, you'll be getting a mail from us, so stay tuned. That's all for today. Thanks for joining us and hope to see you at our next webinar.